When you watch a lot of entrepreneur videos on YouTube, everyone talks about the things to do. But in this video, I'm going to share with you the things not to do. Specifically, I'm going to break down my 7 biggest L's I've made in business, including one mistake that led me to losing £10 million, which I could have avoided if someone more experienced, wiser than me, just sat me down and said, stop being a waste man, stop making waste man behavior. My hope is I'm that person for you. So my hope is after watching this video, it will save you from making the same mistakes and potentially save you millions of pounds and years of headaches. I'm sorry, Uncle Warren, I have sinned. And my first sin was charging too low. Now I get it. When you are starting, you charge low because you want to get clients. But at some point, what happens is you've got enough case studies and enough proof, but you're still charging the same old price. And I did that in FanBytes. When we were starting, we were like 21, 22, and we went to music labels and we just wanted those people to just sign with us. So very excitedly, we just charged low to get, the case studies. But then we started using the same pricing for other brands as we got bigger and bigger. Film studios were coming to us and we're charging the same £1,000 for an influencer campaign, and the bigger film studios were like, sure, not for us. But then the cheaper ones were like, sure, we'll do it. And those guys were a pain in the butt side. Remember, cheaper clients suck. Now, when you charge low, you don't have enough margin to grow, you don't have enough money to reinvest, and you end up building a very, very hard business. You also attract brokies, and look, we don't want to work with brokies. And I remember one day we're engaging with Charlotte Tilbury, and we already were pitching at like £1,000, £3,000, nothing really big. And then something just told me, Timo, just charge higher. And so Charlotte Tilbury wanted to do this amazing campaign, and I just put on our proposal, 40 grand starting budget. I don't know why I did that, but for some reason I said 40 grand starting budget. And then the next 24 hours, they came back and said, sure, let's do it. And I just remember thinking, what a waste, man. So you're telling me that for so many years, I could have been charging that amount, but I was so stuck with just charging cheap. That was such a big mistake. It lost me so much money. So the lesson for you is pricing is a reflection of your belief in your product. If you truly believe that what you're offering can help people, then take your existing price and double it. In fact, triple it. And that is going to be the way that you build a real good business. Now, let's go on to L number 2. I went after poorer customers. There's that meme. You know what? Chuck the meme on there. The meme which says a $500 client and $50 client, right? It is so painful working with smaller clients. When you start off, your reason is sound for working with smaller companies, right? Because they're easiest to sell to. And also the truth is your ego will be more intact. You're like, well, if I get more yeses, then that's good. The problem is those guys are such pains in the backside. I remember one customer called Parsky. Yeah, I'm going to say your name, Parsky. Those guys were so painful. They paid us $5,000 for a service and they were expecting us to like revolutionize the entire business. And it was so frustrating. And eventually what happened was that we had to actually fire them. So if you are someone chasing poorer clients, I'm going to show you the exact way that we got out of that absolute hellhole, which is we wrote a list of customers that we want. We wrote who were the richest customers. And then what we did was that we then said, what would need to be true for us to serve them? And so when we wrote people like Nike and Samsung and Adidas, we said, what will be true? Well, we need insights. We need more data. It can't just be, we'll connect you with influencers. And then we built that product and then we went to them. And that was the way we got these people who were spending hundreds of thousands with us in a single campaign. So you do the same thing to avoid the mistake that I just made. Now, L number 3. Now this one, I want you to listen closely to me because I've made that mistake. A lot of first-time entrepreneurs have made that same mistake, which is giving away too much equity. You see, here's the thing, right? When you're starting off in business, you're just excited. Oh my God, some rich guy or rich girlie wants to give you money. And you're like, yeah. Early on in FanBytes, someone invested £15,000 for 6% of the business. Needless to say, that person made a shit ton of money when we sold. But the thing is, I don't actually blame them. I blame myself. Because when you're early on, the only currency that you have is equity. So you just give it out. Someone wants to advise you, you give them equity. Someone wants to give you intros, you give them equity. Someone just wants to help on the weekends, you give them equity. And by the time you realize it, about a third of your business is gone. I've seen companies where by the time that they've actually figured out what the business truly was, about half the business is gone. So here's how to solve it. There are 3 ways to solve this equity issue. Number 1 is only give out equity that's vested. So vested means that you don't just say, hey, here's 5%. You say, here's 5%, but then you earn it over the next 4 years. So in that way, you have a really easy way to cut ties with them. Number two is if you can tie it to milestones. Now, I've seen really good things where you say, sure, I'll give you a percentage of the business, but only if you do these things. Newsflash, often they're not actually even going to do those things. And then the third is map out what your true value of the business is, what you think the business might sell for, and what you want to have of the business. So for example, if you say, well, I think this business could sell for 10 million, and when it sells, then I want to at least make 5 million from it. That means you've given yourself a bit of a buffer to say that at least 50% of the business you can give over the duration of the business. The moment that it goes over 50%, you say no. Okay, so that's 3 L's down. Let's go on to L number 4, which is not letting go of bad employees fast enough. Bro, I messed this up so much. There were so many people that I worked with that I really should have fired, but I just kept on telling myself that they'd be better. Yeah, maybe they'll change. Maybe something will happen. I don't know, maybe a genie will come down and suddenly there'll be better people. And the truth is, it often wasn't because they were bad. It was because they were just not the right people for me. But I held on, and when you hold on, here's what happens. Your employees and the rest of your team see that and go, this is someone who tolerates a bad standard. I've seen this happen so many times before, where eventually what happens is your best employees actually leave because they realize that you tolerate mediocre employees. And I remember one of my investors told me something which absolutely changed my life when he said, you decided to start this business. You decided to hire these people. That also means that you decide the type of people that you work with. And so why are you tolerating working with subpar people if you are the one who gets to decide the culture of the business? And I remember that changed the way that I thought about business, which is I get to define the standard and I should not let anyone bring down the standard. And here's a very crazy thing. Every time we let someone go, they would be happy and my team will be happy. So because it's often quite an awkward thing where you know they're not doing a good job, they know they're not doing a good job, and then you have this like weird Spider-Man meme where everyone's just looking at each other and thinking, who's gonna fold? Don't let that happen to you. I've lost so much money and so much of my hair by just stressing out over employees that I should have let go. So here's the lesson. If there's someone in your head, as I was talking about that section, go and have that hard conversation. As a founder, you are literally paid to have hard conversations. Don't be a wuss. Don't let them bring down your standard. All right, L number 5. It's trying too many marketing channels at once. Now, this is a mistake I've done so many times, and to be honest, I still do it. It has cost me millions and millions of pounds. So during FanBytes, within about 2 years, we done £1 million in revenue. And most of it just came through speaking engagements. That was me going to conferences and speaking there and landing clients that way. After we made $1 million in our second year, what I then decided to do in my genius mind was then to say, all right, cool, let's do guest posting, let's do Google Ads, let's do a ton of these other things which we've seen other people do. And what that meant was that we had a lack of focus. We went from being extremely good at landing speaking engagements to basically being like a 5 out of 10 in all those other things. And as a result, what happened was that our revenue actually dipped for a few months because we were just not really being good at any of them. And I see this with so many founders. So recently, one of my portfolio companies, they sell crates and gummies, and they got to 100K a month through Facebook ads. And I caught up with the founder, and the founder was saying, oh, cool, now we want to turn on TikTok ads and now want to turn on affiliates. And I was like, well, you've got to 100,000 a month in creatine gummies on Facebook. Do you think you have maxed out the group of people who buy freaking creatine gummies on Facebook? It was like, no, but diversify. You're too small to diversify. All right. That's what I was saying to him. And finally he got it. And now he's doing 200,000 a month in revenue, all because of that focus. And so here's what I want you to do. I want you to write down everything that you're currently working on, pick the one with the strongest traction, and just commit to that fully for the next 90 days. No deviation, no shiny object syndrome, just focus on the thing that is working. Okay, cool. L number 6 is I didn't put my foot on the gas enough. Oh my God, even thinking about this is giving me nightmares. So here's the thing. One of the most counterintuitive mistakes a founder makes is that they pull back exactly the moment that the business has the most momentum. So let me give you an example. When something's working really well, what tends to happen is that you hesitate because you're stuck so much in a lot of like, is this gonna work? I'm not sure. So you worry about whether you're gonna like grow quickly, whether your team can handle the growth, whether the momentum that you're having is real. And as a result, that hesitation, it will just cost you a lot A lot, because business momentum is not something that you can just pause and come back to. Once you got it, you got it. So I'll give you a good example. So during FanBytes, in our third year, we were having an inbound model that was working extremely well. We'd create lead magnets, customers will come in and we'll close them, right? Perfectly simple model. What I should have done was then hired more salespeople, hired more client success people to just serve the customers who would get it. But rather what I was doing was in and in, and I was like, oh, I don't know if it's going to work. And basically what happened was that looking back, that cost us about 12 to 18 months of growth, because a competitor who was in the same niche and just brought up the team much faster were able to clean up and able to serve them a lot more. But with more conviction, we would have absolutely won. That single mistake probably cost me about 2 to 3 million in enterprise value. So the lesson is that if something is working in your business right now, ask yourself very honestly whether you are investing into it at the same rate that the results justify. If it's working, can put your foot on the gas, mate, because this is your moment. Now, L number 7, and this is the biggest one for most first-time entrepreneurs, is that they don't understand the business that they're in. So let me explain. One of the most important things is to know really clearly what business you are in, whether you're in the client retention business or in the client acquisition business or in the brand business. So for example, for a lot of e-com companies, sometimes that they think it's all about the product. They create a really cool product in their heads and they think, wow, I have a good product, so therefore it will sell. But they forget that they're actually in the client acquisition business. You can have the best product, but if nobody knows about it, then you're not going to be able to grow your brand. It's why we see so many of these random supplements brands and you're like, who the heck needs this thing? And it's because the founders are just exceptionally good at Facebook or Instagram ads, and that's the reason why they've won. So I made a mistake when I got involved in FanBytes. I thought it was all about just getting new logos. So I took pride, and my entire team took pride in just getting more and more brands. But the truth was they were just leaking because we didn't have client success in place. We didn't have a client retention system. And it's only when a really successful agency founder told me that when you come to sell your business, client retention is going to be the most important thing, because buyers are going to say, well, how many of these people are repeat spending with you? And that shows that you actually have something that people want. And then I realized, and this was 3 years in, I realized that, oh my God, I've been running the business the wrong way. And that single decision, that single mistake there cost me millions and millions in enterprise value. Because think about all the brands that I had onboarded and we just delivered a shitty experience, and as a result, they didn't rebook. And because they didn't rebook, we weren't able to drive that big enterprise value when we then came to sell the business. So after speaking to that guy, I then built out an entire team whose sole thing was client success rather than just client delivery. And that single decision was one of the best decisions I made. Now, here's the truth. When FanBytes sold, we're doing about 47% client retention. But really, if I had solved that mistake before, we would have been at 75% retention. And that gap, the difference between 47 and 75, could have been an extra 8 to 10 million in enterprise value when we sold. All because we didn't realize the business that we were in. So don't make the same mistake that I did. So those are my 7 biggest L's I've made in business. I'm sorry, Uncle Warren, I have sinned. And if you want to avoid the same mistakes, then come on to our Founder Intensive. You work with myself and my team to avoid you losing millions and having the same headaches that I had on my entrepreneurial journey. If you want it, just click to apply. We only do it by invite only. And hopefully, Uncle Warren and I will see you soon. Peace.